Okay, so I'm Morgan Cave. I am the Director of Instructional Technology in Richardson ISD, that is just north of Dallas in Texas. I have been in that role for almost 4 years now. I have been in Richardson for this is my 21st year. I started out as a classroom teacher in 2005 and really got lucky landing at a technology magnet school that really changed the course of what I would do with my career. So after teaching for 12 years, I moved over to Instructional Technology. I joined Instructional Technology because I heard that my district was going one-to-one, and I wanted to be a part of that. I had been at this magnet campus. I had class sets of iPads for about 4 years at that point, and I wanted to be a part of rolling that out everywhere else. So I joined Instructional Technology as a specialist and did that for about 4.5 years, supporting teachers pre-K through 12. We have about 36,000 students in Richardson. Right now we have 50 campuses. So great experience learning from a lot of different environments, a lot of different leaders, and developing a lot of skills before I moved into my current role. So just a little bit more about me. I always think this is so funny. This is me, Christmas 1984. I asked for a computer. I was 3. And then I always get a kick out of these memes because I actually am not offended by anyone calling me bossy. I don't think that's a bad thing. But, you know, I am the oldest of 3. I'm an Enneagram 8. If you know anything about Clifton's strengths, all of my strengths lie in strategic and influencing. So I feel like all of these things together really set me up for where I am now, even if it took me kind of a windy path to get into leadership and into technology leadership. So some things we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about imposter syndrome, which everyone experiences, thinking about discomfort as growth, and then how we can just build community and build a little bit of resiliency with some of that discomfort or some of those feelings that might come up. I am certainly not an expert. I think the irony here is that I really dragged my feet on finishing this presentation. Like, I thought they were gonna end up like saying like, all right, you're out. Because I kept thinking like, who am I to stand up here and talk about this? I just happen to be a woman who works in technology. And so Dr. M. Froese, who really encouraged me to submit this in the beginning, kept telling me that's the point. That's why you're supposed to do this session. So this is going to be interactive. It's going to be very inclusive. I have a lot of things where I want you to share out or reflect, and so I hope you will participate, even though I know it's the morning after the big party and everyone might be tired and moving slow. Personally, we went to a piano bar last night after, and I did not have my ID, and they put X's on my hands last night, which made me feel so young again. Yes, and I was scrubbing them off this morning, which just took me right back to college. So, yes, I want everybody to feel welcome here, and we're just gonna really focus on how we can be supportive, encouraging, inclusive, welcoming, and I'm here to learn from all of you. Okay, so I want to start off with a quick reflection to sort of set our minds to where we're going to go. So have you ever felt like you didn't belong in a space? What contributed to that, and how did you approach or overcome that? So on this one, I won't ask you to share, but on the other ones after this, I will. So this one, just kind of think about that for a minute. So when I think about this, I have three things that really come to mind, and when I reflect on all of those scenarios and situations, they all led to something that was really impactful after that, even if it was really uncomfortable or I felt like I didn't belong in the beginning. So the first thing that comes to mind is I am also an Apple Distinguished Educator, and in 2019 that I was selected and I went to my first ADE Institute. And I really, the whole time I was on my way, I thought, I am so nervous to meet anyone else there because they're gonna meet me and they're gonna wonder, how did you get in? Like, why are you here? And then you get there and you realize that everyone there feels like that. And that week that I spent meeting other ADEs really impacted the growth that I've had in that time since 2019. And so, just trying to push through that discomfort and feeling like I didn't belong got me into a community and a network that has really grown me more than I really could have imagined. Another thing I think about is the first time I came to JNUC, which was in 2022. And that was the first year I was in my role as Director of Instructional Technology, and I came here, and the very first day I went to an EDU event, and we were in San Diego, and I'm leaving this event, and there's a lot of us walking back to the conference center hotel, and I'm standing at a corner waiting to be able to cross, and I'm wearing my badge, and this person next to me that I don't know, that I've never met, that I've never talked to, says, "Are you here with JNUC?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Why are you wearing a dress?" And I don't even think I said anything because I was so confused by the question. I was like, am I not supposed to be here? Is it because I'm a girl? I don't know. So anyway, that was, I think the whole rest of the week, I felt self-conscious about being in the group and wondering, do I belong here? I come from an instructional background, and yes, I work in technology now. But the whole rest of the week, I kept feeling like, am I really supposed to be here? Do I really belong here? But I'm so glad that I did that, because out of that experience came Austin in 2023, when I got to be really brave and be on the main stage during the keynote. So pushing through that and engaging and interacting and meeting people and learning that week, even though the whole week I questioned whether I belonged, really led me to something that was really impactful. So when I think about how I can work through these scenarios, for me, it's always my belief and my conviction in our work in our ISD. So I was part of our graduate profile committee. I was also part of our strategic planning committee, and I really believe in both of those things. So for me, when I find myself in a situation where I feel nervous, like maybe I don't belong at that table, or I don't fit in, or I feel like I don't have the right things to contribute, I really dig into why I do this job and what motivates me to do this, and really use that to push me forward. So just thinking about women in these roles. So a common thing that you hear is that women only apply for roles when they meet 100% of the qualifications. It's actually not clear if there's statistics that support that, or if that is, rumored that somebody, said that, and there's not really data to back it up. But what research does say is that women do hold themselves to a higher percentage of meeting qualifications, and especially in stereotypical masculine contexts. So for example, technology or leadership. So these are some things, thinking about how, if you are hiring or if you're a candidate applying, how can you overcome that or compensate for that? So one thing that research says is that women want to know the information up front. I know I have certainly read job descriptions where I read it and I think, what does this mean? What does this role even do? There's a lot of words here and there's a lot of verbs, but it's not clear what actually happens. What is the work that's happening? And so these are some things that help, and I think these could be true for anyone, that might help mitigate that on both sides. So being clear with qualifications. What are the specific experiences and skills for the role? What are the responsibilities of the role or the project? You know, you read something and it's like, you're gonna collaborate and synergize and synthesize. What am I doing though? Why? Why am I doing it? And then factoring in the team or organization. So research says that that really matters. And so thinking about not just the actual job, but the environment and the team and maybe the part of an organization. And all of those things are really important in getting more qualified women to apply for roles. Okay, so I talked about this a little bit, you know, some of my personal examples, but I have some questions and I would really love to hear more from you all. So, you know, how does this show up for you? I know even in my environment where I have been there for 21 years and I've been in my department for 8 years, still sometimes this comes up for me. So how does that pop up for you and what do you do to cope? What strategies do you use to push through that? And if you want to share, if you would put your hand up and then we'll get a mic to you.
Yeah, so I'm going through this right now. So I have a finance background, but I do not necessarily have a technology background, and I was put into tech leadership in February. And so I think for me, from like a coping and pushing through standpoint, it's really about being vulnerable and leaning into the connection with the team to say, hey, I want to learn, I want to understand, you know, to be able to do what I need to do to advocate for you, but I need help, right? I need to understand where my gaps are and where we can kind of bridge that partnership. So I'm just honest as I can be. I mean, I even said it to a team member that I'm here with this week that I was like, I do feel like I have imposter syndrome. I know that I have some qualities that I can bring to the table, but as far as the content of this entire conference, it's been tough. It's been a lot of learning. So I think just being open in that is what's helped me.
That's a great reflection. Thank you. Here.
Hi, first thing, nobody should ever be commenting on what you're wearing.
Yes, thank you.
Do a tech conference, wear what you're comfortable in, and rock it. So, as far as what imposter syndrome looks like in my role, I've been a technology person at a large university for 26 years, coming in January. And I've been in the room where I was the only woman, rather a large room where I was the only woman involved, and I felt really, it's like, why am I here? And then I had to remember that I got my job. You know, I was picked out of multiple candidates right before the tech crash. So, you know, where there were 20-some people applying for a role rather than 2 or 3. So that first of all, they picked you for your role. So they picked you for a reason. That doesn't mean that you have to stay at that role. So the way I cope with this is I think about, my motto is go into everything or every discussion with all the enthusiasm, and excuse me for the gentleman in the room, of the mediocre white man who's been the default forever. So just remember that you are here for a reason, and you usually have to work harder than anybody else to get there. So go. And the strategies I use to push through this is, again, that motto. And I try to figure out what I can bring to that meeting. I like to be as prepared as possible. I just got told I'm going to be in a Microsoft Defender meeting when I get back. I don't know why, except for the fact that I complained about the notifications that were sent out not actually having the computer name or serial number in them, so that you have to go through and look in 3 different places to figure out which machines have that specific piece of problem. So just remember why you're there, and it really helps to figure out what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, absolutely. So rock on, wear whatever the heck you want, and rock it.
Good morning. So what imposter syndrome looks like for me is I've been in tech for about 17 years now, and I've earned it. I've learned a lot, but in each new role, I feel like all eyes are on me because I'm a woman of color in my field. And sometimes I feel like some of my counterparts look like, well, why would you know that? You're just a woman. And how I've been coping with it is reminding myself every time I finish a project and I get that kudos that I worked my butt off for it. And I am as good as my counterparts. But then, in the back of my head, I'm still like, it's like a constant battle. You're constantly fighting between your good side and your doubtful side. So what I can, suggest is just, keep fighting the good fight. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but know where you came from and where you are and how you got there. That's pretty much all I have to say about it right now.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Hi. This is my first year, my first Jamf. It's been a little bit of a struggle. So I'm going through imposter syndrome, I think, just being here. Just because, sorry, I've worked as a computer tech since '98, and I'm trying to expand myself. I'm trying to move into bigger roles. I'm trying to move into more of an admin role. And so I thought this would be a good place to learn more of the industry. And I just feel like everybody here must work for like a Fortune 500 company or something. Everybody just seems so much more high-tech than me. So I guess I'm feeling this imposter syndrome myself.
I would imagine there's a lot of people feeling that, and every single person that speaks, whether they're up here or asking a question or sharing or reflecting, everyone feels like that. And I think that kind of helps me sometimes to remember.
I feel like we all just look like we have our shit together, but we don't. We're all just very approachable. And we can look like a stoic person that, yes, we're coming to a tech conference because we know so much about Mac. I'm a Windows engineer. I've been doing Macs for like 2 years. I don't know anything. But, I approach everyone with a smile and then just making sure that I'm also not putting a wall to meet other people. Because ultimately, all we want to do is build community.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
I went through this as well. I came from an organization where I was the most technical person in the consumer space, and then went into the enterprise space, and that is a very different beast. And I work with people that are the kind of smart that make you feel stupid just by talking, just by existing, they make you feel stupid. And actually, a point the woman over here made earlier, I came to the realization that they picked me for a reason. And I think one of the reasons you feel imposter syndrome is because you feel like an imposition to those around you, especially when they're so smart and accomplished. So I got to the point where I accepted that they picked me for a reason, and they were going to put up with my dumb questions. I was going to ask them, and I was going to learn, and I wasn't going to feel like an imposition anymore.
I really like, and I can't remember who said it, but about knowing your strengths. And I think that's always important. I know I kind of started with that. Like, I'm very aware of where my maybe blind spots or weaknesses are and where my strengths are. And so that's when I lean into the people around me. And I think something that working in, specifically in education, that can be kind of, I don't want to say jarring because it's not that serious, but working on the instructional side, I have a team of 10 who were former teachers that work to support all of our teachers on our campuses, and they were all teachers, and they are all women. And then you go onto the other side of our house on the networking and infrastructure side, and it is mostly all men. And then coming to these conferences, I will say one bonus is that the women's bathroom line is so short. Like I have not had to wait at all. So that is awesome. But it's coming from education, and especially my background in education was elementary, which is very female heavy. It can be really different to be in these environments that are different from where I'm working most of the time. So I kind of framed this in the beginning, thinking about discomfort as an opportunity for growth. And so I attended something last spring. I went to Cupertino and attended this event, this developer event that was centered around, in March there's International Women's Day, and they had this developer event around that. I am not a developer. You can create an account and you can, register to go to these things. And so I went, and I was so nervous to talk to anybody because I thought they're going to talk to me and they're going to think, why are you here? You don't know anything. And what are you even doing here? And instead, I was so nervous all day long. I did not talk to anybody. I listened to the speakers. They were amazing. It wasn't about anything technical. They were talking about mentoring and supporting and all of these things that are valuable for anyone. But then at the end of the day, we got in these small groups and we had to talk about what we do. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is when they find out that I really am not supposed to be here. And instead, what happened, I got in this group and I told them, I said, okay, I have to come clean. I don't have an app. I'm not a developer. I don't do anything like that. I work in a school district, and I really want our high school students to be doing more of this, and I wanted to come here to just hear and learn more. And they thought that was so cool. The whole group, they wanted to ask me more questions about what it's like. They were talking about their experiences not having those opportunities in school. And again, I was so nervous, so much discomfort all day, feeling like I didn't have anything to contribute. And instead, when I finally opened up a little bit and talked to the group, I realized that I had something to gain from them, but also by sharing why I was there, then they were able to really speak to the things that I wanted to know more about. Does anybody have anything they want to share about when you kind of pushed yourself out of your comfort zone and you were able to grow?
Hello. So I work in a school district. There's a lot of us. There's about 100 of us. We're T-specs because we have about 100,000 students in our district. Lots of men. I think there's maybe only 3 or 5 other women in our group. So of course I got voluntold to be the team lead for our group of 7 schools that we had, and so even though it wasn't volunteering to step outside of my comfort zone, I was forced to. But it was wonderful because I stopped making myself small. You write the emails like, hey, if you wouldn't mind, could you please go out and do this thing? But if not, no worries. And now it's like, oh no, I'm not gonna make myself small anymore. Yeah. I can say, hey, no, I don't know about that, but we'll figure it out. And it was so refreshing and relieving to be not having to make myself so small and be so not blunt in you, because it's as women we have to be kind, we have to be gentle, and it was nice being able to step outside of that to be more direct, still be kind, but be more direct, and also admit when you don't know things. And it was actually wonderful. I can't believe how much I've grown in just a year as being a team lead.
That's awesome. I think that's a very common experience of feeling like you have to act a certain way or speak a certain way. I know I talked a little bit about some of my strengths and personality in the beginning. I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram. I'm an 8, that's the challenger. It is not typically the way that people expect for women to present themselves. I'm very comfortable being direct, but I also have to a lot of times deal with that people will interpret that from a woman differently than they will from a man. So, okay, so thinking about now how do you advocate for yourself? So leading right into that, you set me up perfectly. How do you assert yourself? So, you know, you can assert yourself, and sometimes people think of that as being a negative thing, or being, you know, too direct or overbearing or bossy, which I've already said I don't think is a bad word. But how can you speak up for yourself in meetings and projects, when you're negotiating something, when you're interested in a leadership role or taking on a leadership role? I know a lot of times when you have to navigate things like that, like I was thinking about what you just said, sometimes you take on leading people that were led by someone else or have done it a different way, and you have to navigate that and say, this is how we're going to do it now. So what are some ways that you might approach that?
Hello. For me, I think it just took a bit of immersion therapy, and this is, you know, definitely still something that, you know, it feels like you have to practice every day. But what I remind myself every time is, you know, the worst thing somebody's going to say is no. And after you hear no a few times, you realize, you know, that's not too bad of an outcome.
Yeah.
And they also very well might say yes.
Yes. Nick, did you want to add?
So to preface, yesterday when you were promoting this, and some guys were saying, and I say guys, were saying, hey, should we show up? And you said, yeah, show up as an ally. And so to flip this around into my role and perspective is to know the unearned power of being a white male in a room, no matter if there is one woman identifying person in there or an entire room. There is an unearned place that I've just come to acquire. I don't know if it's on my driver's license or my birth certificate, but it's there. And so I think continuing to make myself conscious of that, and then to ally and advocate for others in the room to say, hey, quit taking up all the space, like leave some of the other air for some of the women in the room that are trying to share their perspective, you know, and kind of sharing it to other guys is, I think, really important. And I can only speak from it from a white male perspective and not other identifiers.
I'll be honest, I was very unaware of that dynamic and kind of naive about it for, I don't know, probably most of my life, because going into the workforce, into elementary ed, it was just a lot of women. And as we've already covered, I'm bossy and I talk a lot. And so I just really wasn't aware of that until I moved into technology, and then I realized that I would say the same thing as someone else and people would listen to them. And I just discovered this like 7 years ago. But yeah, it was kind of shocking. And I've like slowly come to terms with it, but it's not always intentional. And I really enjoy the department that I work in. I enjoy our leadership, but certainly I didn't really understand how that showed up until I moved out of an elementary campus and into technology.
We had another question over here.
Oh.
So I actually did a presentation with Morgan yesterday, and for me, I stepped outside of my comfort zone by doing that. I mean, I'm a very open, fun person in a small group, but I was very uncomfortable yesterday. I'm gonna be honest, a little uncomfortable today, right now. I'm a white man in the middle of a room, and you're talking about feelings, let's be honest. All that to be said, you're here, and you're here for a reason. My first JNUC, I think I went back to my room 7 times, of course, the day just to sleep and process what was being thrown at me. So don't think that you're not smart enough, don't think you don't know what's going on. I have no actual paper background to do what I do. I have an art degree, right? I run the IT department for an elementary school. It's driven by women. I'm the only man in the room. We joke there's 5 of us on campus and we're not allowed to stand in a circle together, okay? So I just want you to know that you experience and feel these things, but it happens other places. And while a lot of people do not show it well or do not discuss it well, they can relate a lot more than I think you give them credit for.
One more. Oh.
I think what he said about like getting to know that the other people in the room are not smarter than you. Like you have a place in that room too. So don't diminish yourself. And we're not bossy, we're assertive people.
I just wanted to speak to how do you assert yourself in meetings, projects, negotiations, and leadership roles? Just do it. If somebody in, you're like your big boss says, we're going to start working on this, this, and this. We need somebody to spearhead that. Put your hand up. Send that email right after the meeting. Say, yeah, I'm interested. Even if you think that you aren't the right person for the job, maybe, or you don't really know a whole lot about the topic, you can learn. You can do it. You're in your role. Make yourself the person that your name comes up in meetings. So you do that, you volunteer a few times to learn something new, and then pretty soon you're in the grocery store and someone says, oh, hey, your name came up in the meeting the other day, and you're like, okay, what now? And that's how I guess I'm a FileMaker Pro admin now, so for a week and a half. But just do it. Just do it.
Thank you. And I think that also makes me go back to being how you get through when you are feeling discomfort or feeling like you don't belong. And I know I shared that I really dig into my conviction in our work and my belief in what we do and why we do it. And I think that helps me a lot of times when I'm encountering something where maybe I need to assert myself, or we're gonna have to go back and forth, or I'm gonna have to really hold a line on something I strongly believe in, and it's coming back to my conviction about, and I think some of that might be particular to education, but thinking about why I put myself in those positions, it's because of the things that I want for our students and the things that I want for my kids who also are in my district, and that can kind of bolster me and give me that confidence, even if I know I'm going to have a hard conversation or an uncomfortable conversation. So I want to make sure that we have time to get through everything. So on this one, just something to think about. So who lifts you up? And how do you also support others? So I have an amazing team of specialists, and I know it's like such a cheesy thing to say that it feels like family, but it does, and our space is very small and we're all very close. But it is such a hype squad. So for example, I have some of them going through a virtual program right now, and they had a session live on Tuesday. There were other teachers from our district in there. They were commenting and applauding them when they were adding ideas and speaking up in the group. A video was shared that our district was highlighted in, and they were making comments about Richardson and the teachers that appeared in it who were also live in this session. And so I think that it's really important to find the people that can do that for you, and then that you're also doing that for other people. So how do you just hype up the people around you that are doing great things that maybe need to be reminded? And I think we're doing that a little bit in here right now. Okay, so just some practical tools and ideas outside of what we've already talked about. So reframing that imposter syndrome as an opportunity to grow or develop new skills. I know that We all encounter that on small and large scales. But every time that happens, when we push through, there's something on the other side of that that either you can feel proud of that you followed through and you completed that, or where you have an opportunity to stretch yourself and develop new skills. And then when you're having those times where you feel like, I don't have something to contribute here, I don't know if I belong here, I'm not qualified, I'm not smart enough, whatever that could be, keep these things for yourself to come back to. So keep a wins list. I know when I was a teacher, I used to have this file, and my mentor, my very first year teaching, told me this and made me this folder where I kept notes. And now I did teach first grade, second grade, fifth grade, first grade and second grade. I got a lot of notes. I mean, there were notes every day, all kinds of pictures. So maybe not all of them, but the things that really meant something. And a lot of times it was a note from a parent. And I would keep those things, and every now and then you go back to that. So it could be a wins list. It could be encouragement. That's something that I try to do for others, thinking about that support. I am a big handwritten note and send it person, or go drop it off at a campus or put it in someone's office, because I think it's important to have those things to come back to and remind yourself. Letting someone else know how their value shows up, and they can go back and refer to that and build their own confidence. So keep a wins list, keep those notes or those positive affirmations. And then, sometimes you just have to pause and reflect, wait, okay, maybe I'm not finished with what I'm doing and it's still hard, but this is how far I've come at this point. And then look for a mentor or somebody that can support you, and then trust them. So I'm going to use the example of Dr. M telling me to do this session and telling me that, yes, I was qualified to have a session about women who work in technology leadership, because I am, in fact, a person that checks all of those boxes. And sometimes when you don't believe in yourself or you don't trust yourself, you need that other person, and then you trust them. So when we're speaking up, use clear language and don't undermine your message. We kind of touched on that earlier about, trying to be like, is this okay? What if we do, or not? Maybe, I don't know if you think so. Just be clear and direct when you can, so that you're not undermining what you want to say and you're not devaluing your words. Set boundaries, and then know your expertise and your value. You know what you're bringing to the table, you know what you have to offer, and hold firm to that. And then find a community. So join a group or create one. Celebrate and champion the successes of others. This is one of my favorite things about my job, is getting to celebrate teachers and the amazing things that they do. And when I celebrate them and build them up and hype them up to other people, I feel so much joy just from putting that out there for someone else. So find those people that will do that for you, and then put that back out there also, and then create opportunities for others. So I know that kind of sounds like a cliche about, being mentioned in the rooms you're not in, or the table you're not at. But I think that is really important. That is something I know I try to do for my team a lot. My team of specialists are incredible. They all have very specific things where they really excel and shine. And I make sure that when I'm talking to leadership above me, when I'm talking to campus principals, when I'm talking to teachers, I mention them by name and I say, this person is really good at this, or did you hear about this? When someone reaches out to me and says, hey, one of your specialists did this training and it was incredible, I send that to my boss and to that person so that I can share that and make sure that I'm passing that along and celebrating them. And then finally, what I would like to walk away from this with is really reflecting on, is there anything that you're doing that you want to kind of curb or stop doing? Anything you're telling yourself that maybe isn't the message that you want to take forward? Something maybe you want to start doing. Maybe it's keeping that wins list. Maybe it's thinking about your strengths before you go into something where you're uncomfortable. And then who's somebody that can support you? And you all did such a good job of engaging and interacting and sharing that I have like 1 minute and 30 seconds left for questions. But I will be happy, yes. I will also be happy to talk to anybody afterwards.
I just want to give a shout out to all the women in here for being in this space and creating a space for yourself in a male-dominant section. It is amazing to see how many women are here. So if you're thinking to yourself, maybe I shouldn't be here, you should be. And I encourage all of you to push that forward to anyone else. So a couple of years ago, maybe about 6 years ago, I was in Portland with my girlfriend, and we were walking down the street at night. And normally I could hear people walking behind me. I'm like, hey, there's people walking behind us, cool. But she kept looking back. And at one point, she stopped me and pushed me against the wall that we were walking by. And she stopped and she let the people pass by. And I'm like, why are you doing that? And she was like, you won't understand. It's a woman thing where you have to be very careful about where you're walking, what you're doing. And since then, I was like, whoa, this is crazy that I've never had to experience this before, right? And so to go off that, my biggest thing has always been to try to find ways to help others or help women in however I can. And one bit of thing that I have for everyone here, look for certifications, look for certain things, right? Because you need to create a niche or a space for yourself continuously. Yes, you went to college. I believe we all went to college, but let me tell you, I went to college, and whatever I was taught there, I never actually used in my role. Literally, I went to jobs, and they're like, well, if you need to do something, just Google search it. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess.
I mean, I was a French major, so certainly not doing anything with it up here.
So I was like, okay, I could throw this away. But the biggest thing I have is always look for certifications, especially because a lot of companies pay for your education. So take advantage of that, right? If you're not going to be there for that long, let's say, maybe this is just a stepping stone for where you want to be. Just take advantage of whatever they're giving you, right? Slack certification, Jamf certification, Box, anything, right? Put that under your belt, because as you move out through your career, that's only going to empower you and actually give you the ability to negotiate wherever you want to go. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming to this. This was way out of my comfort zone to talk about this. I really didn't know how to facilitate this, and so I appreciate you engaging and you also being, vulnerable and brave to share back out. So yes, thank you all so much.